We're now going to move on to thinking about how to use something called an ini file. So in this video we're going to just pick up from where we got to. We're going to look at how we change things within our web page and identify key things we might want to change. We'll then have a look at the PHP ini file, and we'll have a look at how the ini file works in terms of its data structure, and then we'll work out how to read and use the data. So from where we've got to with developing our little mini framework, we had an HTML5 page, we added some CSS, we created a web page class, and we made a template. So we've made ourselves a little framework website which consists of a library subdirectory that we copy into our new website. Inside the library is a webpage class.php which defines our webpage class, a webpage CSS which defines the styles that our pages use, a template.php which can be copied into the main working directory to form the working pages of our site. And if we want to change things in our website, if it's page structure, it'll be there in the template top and bottom, the pair. If it's look and feel, it will be in webpage.css. And if it's individual page content, it's in the copies of template.php, in other words, the page1.php, page 2, whatever. There are some things that define our website that have to be found by trawling through a code file. It would be nice if key parameters could be listed separately. We can do this if we use this thing called an ini file. If we look at our template top.html, we can have a look and see what we've got here and what sort of things we might want to pull out. So key values in this template are the heading. If you look at the header/header bit, there's the H3, David's website, the tagline, which we got as a paragraph there, a little test site, and also there's the menu that would be nice to have readily available. It's quite involved in terms of the way it's put in terms of the HTML, and it will get even more involved when we think about active pages next time. So it would be nice if we could pull these out and produce them separately. So let's have a look at how we might produce our ini file. So PHP provides a simple facility for reading data in from an ini file. For our class, it could look like this slide here. So we have a set of values where we have heading equals my website, tagline equals a little example website. So you can see there we pulled out the H3 values and the P values from within the header/header section. And then we've got a little section called menu. Now you can see menu is put together as a lump, so it's in square brackets. It'll actually come in as an array. So we might think about that in terms of having already thought elsewhere about how arrays work in PHP. And we've got 4 lines, so 1 line for each of our entries in our navigation. So we have home equals page1.php, about equals page 2, and so on and so forth all the way through. Now we need to think about how we're going to read our ini file. So let's call our ini file webpage.ini to go with our webpage.class.php. PHP provides a single command for reading it into an array. So we can have ini file equals parse ini file webpage.ini, true. We won't go into what the comma true or comma false will do for now. We'll just accept that's the way it's done. Now, if you see on this slide, we've put object in brackets right in front of it. Now that forces it to be an object, which is a bit quick and dirty, and it doesn't make the whole thing a proper object, but we'll stick with that for now. It would be a good idea to have a look at what our data object looks like as soon as we pulled it in. So if we do a printr command to have a look at the structure of our data as we've pulled it in, you'll see that our data has indeed come in as an object because we cast it as an object. The first entry is heading pointing to my website, then tagline pointing to a little example website, the text a little example website, and then the third entry is menu, and that's pointing to an array, and that array has first entry home pointing to page 1, about, and so on through the 4 pages. So our web page class currently has just one method, which is render. Now that returns our template HTML code ready for streaming. It would be good to add some attributes, so let's add 4 attributes. We'll have $heading, which will hold the value for the main heading on each page. We'll have $tagline, which will hold the tagline for each page. We'll have $footer, which will hold the footer line on each page. And $menu, which will be an array object holding the labels and links for each navigation tab in the format $label pointing to $link. So our web page class now changes. It did go in and it just said public function render blah blah blah. It now says class web page protected $heading equals default website heading, protected $tagline equals what the tagline is, protected $footer equals whatever the footer is, protected $menu equals the array, and that has the pages. Now for the default, when we define our class, I'm just putting in a couple of pages. That will get overridden when we read in the ini file. Then we get into the public function render, which defines our method render for the class. Now we need to read in our ini file, and we'll do it as soon as we instantiate the class. So we have public function _construct, so that's the function that runs whenever we create a new instance of our web page class. As soon as we do that, it will do the parse ini file, and you can see it's parsing for webpage.ini, and then assuming it's worked, so if that's true, that means if it's worked, then ini file, $ini file will become whatever comes in as when it parses the ini file, and notice that we've cast it as an object as we got there. Now the next line says $this pointing to heading is equal to ini file heading. So that's the ini file. We've made it an object, so we're looking for the heading attribute within the ini file object. Why $this? Because we're in object PHP and we're within the web page class, and we want to say the web page attribute heading should become whatever the $ini file object heading is. But we can't say $web page pointing to heading because we're inside $web page. It gets confusing. So you have to have $this, meaning this class that I'm dealing with at the moment. That's all it means. It's a standard thing in object PHP. Similarly, to set the tagline attribute within our web page class, we do $this tagline equals whatever came in through $ini file tagline, and the footer same way, and the menu the same way. And notice that on this last line here, I'm going to now take whatever's come in as the array for the menu. That's now going to be cast as an object. So within our class, this menu will be an object containing entries with page name pointing to page URL. Notice before we leave this slide that I skipped over the fact that we've got an @ symbol in front of the parse ini file. So if brackets @ parse ini file. What's the @ all about? Well, if we're doing a parse ini file, it's looking for this webpage.ini. What happens if it doesn't find it? If it doesn't find it, it'll report error messages. Now, sometimes that's helpful, but if something goes wrong in the production version of our website, we don't want error messages coming up untrapped. By all means, trap it later on, but let's just suppress the error messages at the moment and then decide if we don't find the web page, then we can decide what we're going to do about it. So to stop the default error messages coming up, we put an @ sign in front, and that says don't report any errors if you don't find webpage.ini. Now, last time we passed the field that we wanted to be changed via a parameter. What we're going to do here is we're going to take the various entries in our ini file, and we're going to put them into an array, and we're going to pass them over to as a substitutions list when we call our render method. So for the heading, tagline and footer, that's straightforward. We're going to take $substitutions is our substitutions list. Note we're not initializing that, so if someone decides they want to put additional substitutions in when we do the render method, then they'll be in there already. Otherwise it'll be set as null when we come into the render method. So adding on to that substitutions array, we're going to add the array which has heading pointing to this web page heading, tagline pointing to head tagline, and footer pointing to footer. So we put those three into our substitutions list. When we call the render method, it will then go through, find heading, tagline and footer, and it will replace those with whatever was in the ini file. Excellent. What about the menu? So for the menu, we probably want to create that as a set of HTML lines rather than single word substitutions. It's just easier. So let's now start with initializing the menu, because we want to start from scratch for this one. That's different from the other issue. And so we'll start it with a carriage return, so it will look nice and tidy when we list view source on the in the web browser. And now we go through the menu array. So we use the for each, which is a lovely way of going through our menu. So for each this menu, so we're looking at the menu attribute within our web page class, and we're going to take, for each line, we're going to take it as $name pointing to $page. So we're going to assign the $name variable. We'll take the first item that comes up, the key, and the $page will take the value thing that goes with it on each line of the array. So now we can say we'll take menu and we'll iterate round saying onto $menu, let's add on a line at a time where we've got href equals the $page. That's all in the diamond brackets. Then we'll have the $name, which is the name we actually want to use and appear on the menu bar, and then we'll have the close a tag, and the \n is the PHP way of saying and now give us a new line. That simply keeps the HTML source code tidy. And when we've gone through each entry on our for each loop, we can then say, okay, we've now set up $menu as a substitutions list, so we can now take our substitutions list, which now has, from our previous few lines, has the header, tagline and the footer on, and we're now going to add to that a little array item that has menu pointing to $menu. Now we need to update the templates. So within our templates, we had, as before, the title/title. On that little line we had the double curly braces title, but now we can take out what we had between h3 and /h3 and replace that with double curly braces heading. We can take out the tagline bit between the p and /p in the header and put double curly braces tagline. And with the navigation bar, lovely, we take out everything from the menu, just have nav/nav and double curly braces menu, because we built the entire menu in our render method. We need to look at template bottom, because don't forget we've also included in our ini file the footer bit, so copyright, David Argles, whatever you want to put on your footer bit can go in there. And now we have a mini framework of 4 files in our library subdirectory. So we have the 2 templates, the template pair.html defining the semantic structure of our pages. We have webpage.css defining the look and feel of our pages. We have webpage.ini giving easy access to the repeated content on each page, including the menu. We have template.php, which we copy as many times as we need and becomes a template defining the content of the individual pages. It becomes page 1.php, page 2 and so on our website. And that's it. The code for each of our 4 files is pretty short. We've managed to avoid repeating ourselves. The clear separation between the functions of our files will make it easy to maintain. There is a step 5 example which shows an example site built this way, and there are other things that you can do, but this shows the basic principles.